How long does it take to rank SEO web pages on Google and AI? That's the $1,000,000 question for the day. You are welcome to the We Don't Play podcast. And we talk about SEO, AI, marketing, things that matter to you that you can actually see the reason to be interested in so that your business can also grow and get the responsibility and also the attention it deserves. So we're going to talk about this today, and we're going to really run down this question, within this hour. If you have any questions within the hour, please raise your hand or put it in the chat or let me know. Or if you have to skip the line and you want to make it official, let's make it official by clicking the link at the top or in the description and clicking on the service where you are able to start here. If you need AI, SEO, digital marketing services, start here by clicking on this link so that you can leave your contact information with your first name and your best email. And then from there, you'll be redirected to schedule a call. And after you schedule a call, you'll have access to my digital business card. It's very easy, very simple, as long as you follow through the process and you're also able to get the information received. So the same thing you're going to go through is the same thing you want your client or your customer or your prospect to go through so that they can also feel connected to what you're doing. Because most times we are building websites and we're building all these assets and tools without realizing how long these tools take. So we're going to talk about it today so we can break it down. So appreciate you for being here, Mo, Frank, Al Hortas, Selena, thanks for being here. It's been a while. Foxylicious, Audrey, Melvin, Mo Dub, glad to have you here. And I see you with the pink ticket, Tessia. Mohammed, welcome to the house. If you feel free to be part of this house, we are here consistently and we talk about marketing rooms and topics like this. And I feel like sometimes it's good to have morning rooms because this is an international app. I'm in Houston, Texas, but I know people are all the way in New Zealand, all the way in Netherlands, all the way in India. So you can't just stick to one time zone or one time frame. That's why I like to do this in between the time. Yesterday I was here in the evening. Today I'm here in the morning because I don't have time to be here in the evening. So I said, why not use this morning to answer this question and give you the answers right away as soon as possible. So thanks for being here, and I'm excited to be here. If you have any questions about this topic, put it in the chat so I can answer these questions as we discuss. Mo Dub, how are you, man? Good to see you.
What's up, brother? And I actually saw you online last night as I was signing off, so I didn't have time to join. But yeah, that's what's up, brother.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Yeah, I was here yesterday and I really went deep into the topic and I asked, this was the question that I put out. This is the topic of the room. Why isn't my website ranking on Google or AI brand mentions? I drilled that question down to the T, so I'm not going to talk about it today. If you want to listen to that episode, go to the previous one so you can tap in and get the full scoop. But I'm excited that we're learning, we're growing, and the only thing I'll mention from yesterday is I have 52 questions that are going to be answered. And this is the second question out of 52. So if you're going to be listening to this information, just know there are 50 more questions that I'm going to be answering to help you as a business owner achieve SEO better in 2025, 2026, and using AI and SEO to make sure that you're not falling behind and you won't say that you didn't know. So that's the goal. Hey, John, good morning. Glad to have you here. How are you?
I'm very well, Favor, and Mo, glad you all are here. Hope you're having a great day. And so far, my Wednesday is really good. Getting a lot of stuff done, and I got Google AdSense activated on my website yesterday. So while it's not enough money, it's not a lot of money so far. It's another revenue stream from traffic. So I'm all ears, man. Look forward to hearing you get to talk about.
Same here. Thank you. Yeah, Google AdSense is beautiful. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people want to have ads, some people don't want to have ads. But if you have news, media, and you have traffic, those impressions can count into earned impressions. Because we think about organic impressions, that's organically getting impressions for the things you organically post. So if I post one video and it has 200 impressions and I post the same video, maybe I make an edit and it now has 2,000 views, that's 2,000 impressions, that's still organic. Now it's earned impressions, like now what you're saying too, John, with earned impressions where you're gaining these impressions and you're also earning by the dollar. So let's say you have 100 impressions, and for every 100 impressions, you get $1. I'm just being hypothetical. That's not the standardization chart. But if you have that type of metric and you're able to use the KPIs and factor in what goes where, then if you're able to do the math and say, okay, if 100 impressions equals to $1, then if I have 100,000 impressions, how many dollars can I make? So when you start creating these mathematical calculations and start doing your business, just doing the things that you know how to do best, and then you're able to figure out, okay, I just need to put X amount of effort to get Y amount of results. So that way you're able to know what you need to do between the line to make sure that you're creating this for your business. Now, a lot of people are asking this question: how long does it take to rank? How long does it take to rank your website on Google, on these AI search engines? The first thing I said is that, and I'll be very brief on that for yesterday, is when you want to show up on Google, you have to show up first with a website that Google can actually see that you have. Then when you do have that, the next thing is to submit that Google website, or submit your website to Google, because Google Search Console is a Google internet provider. Let me say it again. Google Search Console is Google's internet service provider. So if you're not on Google, you also need to be on Google, so that as a Google subscriber, then that means you have access to Google's internet. If you don't have Wi-Fi, or if you don't have mobile network service, there's no way you can access the internet. It's a world wide web, but your website is not connected to the internet. So there's a server problem there. The first problem is that your website is not ranking because you're not active on those servers. That's the first thing. If you're not in the library, if your book is not in the library, if your book is not on Amazon, and you have a book but it was never submitted, or it was never recognized, or it was never indexed, or it was never put into the inventory, then it wasn't there in the first place. So there's no reason why you're looking for something that wasn't there in the first place to find it there if it wasn't there at all. So when you have a website, your website consists of a domain and a hosting, right? So when you have a domain, a lot of people buy domains. Yeah, you can buy as many domains as you want because you're going to keep paying for them every year because you own them. That's your intellectual property. So if you're spending $20, $200, $2,000 a year on domains, that's great, because one day you can sell those domains, you can list them for sale, you can flip them, you can turn them into a website, you can keep them, you can do anything you want to do with them. But when it turns into a website from just a domain, you need a hosting. That's why people go to WordPress hosting, or they go to Hostinger or SiteGround or GoDaddy or Namecheap or Wix or Squarespace. These platforms have either their inbuilt hosting platforms, or you have to integrate a hosting platform to the website. So like WordPress, for example, you need to have an external third-party hosting platform to host your website. If you're using Hostinger, if you're using Bluehost, if you're using SiteGround, if you're using GoDaddy, these are the platforms that are going to be hosting your website. So when you're asking how long does it take to rank SEO web pages on Google and AI, that's where I start from. I don't start from, oh, we have to show up on Google because you have to write the right SEO. That before used to work, but today that does not work. It's not that easy. In fact, it's more complicated than it's before. It's more sophisticated, but it's actually at the same time easier, because if you really niche down to exactly who you're targeting or who you want to connect with, then it's decentralized, because not everyone is doing the same things you could be doing. If you have a strategy and a plan, and a plan is not a strategy. A strategy is not a plan. A plan and a strategy are two different things. They can be interdependent. So when you're creating a strategy and a plan, hey Bella, welcome to the room. Glad to see you here. When you have a strategy, your strategy is giving resonance. It's also giving dominance to the authority based on the search that you're describing, that you're talking about. Because if I want to rank for a certain keyword or certain phrase, it's because I'm ranking for the term. I'll give you an example. We have a client, amazing, broken to bone, and shout out to you, Deborah Griffiths, and I talked to her and I was like, yeah, I would love to talk about this. And we talked about it yesterday briefly. So I want to just give you my own version of what she talked about yesterday so that you can also see and kind of hear the difference and see how you can also do it for yourself because it's powerful. She wrote an article about how to release yourself from emotional detachment, when you're with a significant other or you're with someone that you're emotionally toxic in a relationship with and you want to detach emotionally. How do you detach? Great morning, Bella. How do you detach? When you detach, there are different steps that you have to take. So she's a coach. She's, great at what she does. And she referenced it from the Coldplay scenario, from the Coldplay incident, from the thing that everyone was talking about. So she wrote the article and she kept it as a draft. So I now said, okay, I'm going to take this draft. And this is what we do with clients. We either write it for you fully or you write it yourself and we optimize it. Because sometimes you want to just have the right wording. So I'll just, you can paint the house and then I'll just put the ribbon on it. So she wrote the draft, all her words, all her expertise, all her intellect, all her knowledge, all her intellectual property. What did I do? I got in there and I sequenced it and I added a video. So I found a video on YouTube that had the information about the whole play scenario, right? And I first did a Google search and I was like, who is at the top talking about this? Because people are trying to look for ways to, respond, Coldplay concert emotional lessons. If you search for that right now, her website is showing up at the top. Before that, there was a website that was showing up before and I was like, hey, this website has been here for maybe a month or two, but no one's really talking about it in a very sequenced way. And actually the article that was ranking first before we wrote it, that article was showing up as a Squarespace site. So I was like, okay, I can see the site. So it made sense. And I'm going to give you guys the proof. Here's the link in the chat. If you look at that link in the chat, that's the link that went out 2 days ago. And if you Google the same thing, Coldplay concert, emotional lessons, or emotional lessons to learn from Coldplay concert, you're going to see her article there. And that's been 2 days. So the question about this topic is how long does it take to rank SEO web pages on Google and AI? I've just given you one example. It could be 2 days. It could be 2 months. It could be 2 years. So for her, the reason why it's 2 days is not because this was the first article she wrote. It's because she's existing. It's like credit. If you show up for the first time to a bank and you have no credit, no history, no track, no nothing, they're not going to trust you over someone who they've been in a relationship for 30 years, for 3 decades or less or more compared to your day zero. So if you now look at websites based on traffic, that's why I always say go and update your website, update your website, update your website, update your website, update your website. Because if you don't update your website 2 years from now, that update that is called a tokenization, which is a duplicate copy of your original from your web page, is going to be deleted from the servers because Google actually deletes your image or deletes your content from Google search if you don't have anything relevant. That's why for every one post that you publish for the first time, you want to go back and at least edit at least 1 to 5 or update at least 1 to 5. And you can do that. Some people can do that by themselves. So some people say, oh, I don't have the time to do it. If you have time on focusing what matters most to you, you can either hire it out, you can reach out to me, or you could reach out to anybody else that you can see fit, or you can do it yourself and then, bootstrap, because I did it myself. I did it from the ground up. I said, hey, I'm going to start this from scratch, bootstrap, and here we are today. So you can do it too. If I could do it, you can. It just takes dedication, consistency. And after 550 episodes, 5 years podcasting, 6 years now podcasting this month, and 5 years on Clubhouse, it shows that there's a lot of consistency and people are still listening and also learning. So I have 50 more questions to go. So I've just given you a quick case scenario on how long does it take to rank on Google. It can take 24 hours. I've seen articles that take 24 hours and I've timed it. And there's a date stamp because if it's within the first 24 hours, Google has never seen this link before. It's never surfaced the internet and you just brought it to the web for the first time. It's like bringing a newborn to the world. They've never seen this post. They've never seen this article. They've never seen this video. They've never heard this song. They've never heard this podcast. It's a fresh sound. It's a fresh file. It's a fresh multimedia file. So if you're able to use that and say, okay, what text, audio, or video file do I have that can actually exemplify or give me the topic authority as the person, then I can decide on understanding what people are searching for and then match the brand to the context. So in this case, people are matching emotional lessons from the Coldplay concert. People are still searching about that. Years from now, if they ever want to reference anything, if anybody wants to cite anything, that article is legible and it's also clickable because an article lasts at least 24 months. That's why when you look at articles today that are ranking, we're in 2025. You see articles from 2023, 2024, some even 2022. You can even go back to I've seen an article from '09. So showing up on the search results because nobody's talking about that. So there are some very good ways you can figure this out. And one prompt you can use, try this out. One prompt you can use, type in blog / your topic on Google and hit enter. You're going to see all the blogs that are being talked about. And if yours is not on that list, then that means you have work to do. If you're on that list, that means you have accomplished the task. Now you can scale it by adding more to that one blog because you can't have one blog and let it sit. You need to have a multiple of blogs or links that support that one link because you're creating a spider web on the World Wide Web. So it makes sense when you look at it like that, as opposed to what is SEO and what is AI. Because when you start answering those questions, you have more questions and it now gets more overwhelming. So I don't want that to happen. So John, Modub, what are you thinking when it comes to SEO, web pages, Google, or AI?
I love that you said, and this goes right hand in hand with the podcast, especially I do 2 episodes a week. So it creates a new page which gets indexed by the search engines and it shows within, Favor said 24 hours, sometimes it's shorter. To see, for me, appreciable gains in web traffic from SEO, it's anywhere from 3 to 6 months, but the gains can be within 24 hours. But the big long term, and it's a sprint. I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So I did do a quick search. I did what you said, blog, and I put a blog post I did not that long ago, and that showed up. I think it's number 5 on Google. So that's good. But it's all about SEO traffic. And here's the one thing that's absolute certain: if you don't like the results, doing nothing, you'll be in the exact same boat you're in 6 months from now. The exact same boat. So if you want to make improvements with SEO or AI, you got to put in the effort. This is not the lottery where you hand $2 to a 7-Eleven clerk and you get a winning ticket and you win $375 million. That happens for some people, but not for me. So if you want results, do the work.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you can't sugarcoat this. You can shortcut this. This is the work. And sometimes people think you're a success overnight because you showed up once for the first time, yet you've been showing up, but they just didn't see it. You know how you can say you're today years old because you realize something after 20, 30 years? That can happen. 10, 5, 2 years, 1 year, 1 month, it can happen. So definitely when you create new pages, you're adding more ammo, you're adding more anchored links, you're adding more context links, you're adding more engineering preset links. I can say it that way because when you think about context engineering and you think about the content engineering and you think about the prompt engineering, you think about the SEO engineering, you think about the topic engineering, it's different. I was telling my client yesterday, because we have her podcast, it's called Inside the Dollhouse. She helps women and any other, she just pretty much helps professionals who want to focus on pre-op care. And she's in Miami, Florida. And she has a podcast called Inside the Dollhouse. And she's been gaining a lot of traffic and a lot of attention. And she's only about, 10 episodes in. And she's being listened to in about 13 countries already. And she's been listened to as well. And of course, locally too. she's getting insights. She told me, hey, Favor, someone found me on Google and Facebook for the first time. I usually get clients through referrals and emails and, workshops and vendor, outdoor events and, meeting people and, connecting. And that's how I met her, because we connected through an event. So that's true. But she's never gotten a lead or even a sale or even a conversion from Google. And she got that the other day. And what she invested has been paid back with one client. And she has more clients that are coming in, and we're not even done yet. So we're looking at the longevity of you creating consistency and building pages and websites and web links that people can find on search engines like Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, iHeart Podcast, Pandora Podcast, Amazon Podcast. These are platforms that people search daily for information. And then if they link back to your website or link back to your page, which is on Google, on Pinterest, which we're creating for her too, or you're thinking about creating connections based on those tap-ins, meaning that you're adding more links to the baseline, meaning that also your website is gaining more mentions. Because if you're being mentioned on Facebook, that's a link. If you're being mentioned on a podcast, that's a link. If your podcast is showing up on 10 different podcast shows, that means you have 10 different podcast web links from 10 different domains linking back to your one episode. So that means you have 10 links to the power of one episode. So if you have 10 episodes, that's 10 to the power of 10 episodes. So when you look at 10 times 10 and you start realizing, oh, okay, from 10, I have 100, I have 1,000. You start realizing, oh, these links are actually building, because in those podcast description boxes have places where you're supposed to anchor text. And when you anchor text, the links that you're contextually connecting them to, when they click on them, are being tracked, are being clicked on. So you don't just put a link there for link's sake. When you use timestamps, it's even better. When you put a timestamp and someone sees, oh, okay, I'm going to just click on 3 minutes, 52 seconds, bam. Now I can listen to this episode talking about ABCD. Now that download is increased, because a download is considered in podcasting within your first 60 seconds. If somebody listens to your podcast for at least 60 seconds, that's a download, because it's a server that has processed information through a time limit, which has now been crunched into data that has been minted as analytics. I don't want you to get this confused. So when you start thinking about 60 seconds times the number of episodes or the number of minutes you have times the number of shows that you're showing up on or guesting on, then it starts to build retention for you long term. So now, how long does it take to rank SEO web pages? It might take you 24 hours now, because you're showing up everywhere. You're not just on ChatGPT, you're also on Perplexity, you're also on Cloud, you're on Grok, you're on Meta, you're on DeepSeek, you're on Pinterest, you're on TikTok, you're everywhere. So you trust the brand more because it's showing up more. There's that 4-7-11 rule. So when you look at it like that, and you're using it from the compounding effect of a podcast, an email, and a website, that's a triple threat, because as a website, you publish it once, boom, it goes everywhere. You send an email, boom, it goes to everybody that's in your list. You send it out through social, it goes out to everybody that's connected. By the time you look at everything, you're like, oh, okay, this podcast has gone to all the directories, an email has gone out to all the recipients, and the website has gone to all the engines. Now you're talking machine learning. Now you're talking retention learning. Now you're talking brand learning. So that's where it now comes to play. But if you're not playing at any of these levels, it's going to be hard for you to compete. Because right now, AI is literally where Facebook was in 2012. Bitcoin in 2017, Clubhouse in 2020. If you go back, Pinterest back in the day, 2010. So you start looking at these platforms, you're like, oh, okay, Facebook, yeah, they're 2 decades old. Google, they've been there. Okay, these are platforms that have been there. TikTok has only been in the US for close to 10 years? Realistically, because I was on TikTok when it was called Musical.ly. It was 2016. That's when I first joined TikTok now. That's what they call it now. So if you look at it, if TikTok is going to be here, that's going to pass 10 years. But if it's not, then that's a decade. So if you think about how long does it take to rank, that question is a very long-ended question. So it really depends on how frequently you want to show up for the same thing that you want to answer to the people you want to keep showing up for. That's how long it's going to take. If it's going to take you 2 days to get that done, if it's going to take you 2 weeks to get that done, 2 months to get that done, that's dependent on how you want to get it done. Either you're going to pay for it to get done within a shorter time, or you get it done with your time and get paid for it later in the time you spend. So it's really up to you, time or money. Mo, what do you think, and how would you let people know how to structure their time with copy?
Oh, it's funny that you say that because you were saying right now a few minutes ago about providing answers, right? So that's the number one thing when it comes to your copy, right? When you're creating your copy, answer questions, right? Answer questions in your blog, right? Every paragraph, answer a question, right? So now you're providing value because you're answering the question, you're providing that solution to people, and Google's going to pick that up, right? If you use the H1, H2 tabs, Google picks that up. And so now you move right along. And it also helps with the AI, the generative engine optimization, because you're answering questions because people are asking ChatGPT. ChatGPT is really, shit. I mean, if it's fourth, I would be surprised it's not third or second now when it comes to searches, right? Because number one is always Google, but TikTok and YouTube have flipped back and forth as the number one search engine or number two search engine. I wouldn't be surprised if ChatGPT was third or fourth, right? So since they're always answering questions, you start, or even Perplexity, right? Because Perplexity goes out and finds the research for you and pulls it all together. So what you want to do is answer questions in your content to show your authority, to show your expertise, to show your value. And Google and all the other engines will recognize you for that the more you put out, right? So, and that's the other thing I want to say is pay attention to your content velocity, right? So answering the questions takes care of your content quality, right? Pay attention to your content velocity. And that's how fast you can create the content and then distribute it, whether you distribute it on Facebook, Pinterest, here on Clubhouse, LinkedIn, whatever. Pay attention to your content velocity, right? Because the more content that you put out that's relevant is going to help you as well. And I'll go ahead and land the plane there.
Thank you so much for that, Mo. As you were speaking, I went into some search mode and I wanted to get some really cool articles that are out there that I would suggest, because we live in a world where there are billions of blogs every day. So if you can reference one that actually would help, then I think it's a great thing to look at. There's a website, and let me say this real quick. When I look at websites and I realize that there's no competition, I really mean it. Because when you look at this website channel, right, there are over 85 to 95 plus, depending on what you look at the scale on. Google has a really big market share within that 5 to 10% gap range. So if you start looking at articles that are ranking in the US and the links that you're clicking on are not even from the US, for example, the link I'm putting in the chat is from realvibe.in. .in is telling me it's probably Indonesia. I remember looking at an article yesterday with a client and the article was ranking from Hong Kong. So I'm like, wait, what's going on here? Nobody's ranking for this in the US, that someone from Hong Kong is pulling information through the server to answer the same question somebody in the US can't answer in the form of that same structure. It's sad. So I'm like, wow, this is different. And someone may not even realize it because they're just clicking because they just want the answer. But me, I'm looking at the person, the link, the referral. Like that link you click on, you've probably never heard of that company or ever seen that link before. But I did some research and I found it just now. I did a quick research and that's what I saw. So there's a difference between SEO. How do I say this? There's a difference between SEO with traditional searches, yes, and AI searches. Because like Mo, you're talking about ChatGPT being one of the top. Yes, if you look at it from a universal scale, yes, ChatGPT could be ranking in that top 5 today. If we talked about this maybe 2-3 years ago, it would be a different story. But now, in the next 2-3 years from now, it could also be a different story. So the thing is, if you're not if you're on ChatGPT, great, because a lot of businesses are using ChatGPT to get information, to do workflows, to think, to process, to plan, to just use it just to be like an agent, so to speak. But they're not really using it from the back end. In other words, right now, when I talked about the other question yesterday on why my website is not ranking or even showing up on AI search results, is because you don't have web links that we're talking about today that you can track and see whether you're even showing up tomorrow for that same keyword. Because right now with AI searches, there's a 24-hour clock. There's a timer. So with AI search, it's a little different. So when you're using AI search, it's a 24-hour countdown timer. So within that 24-hour countdown timer, the number of prompts that are being prompted into the search engine, and there are about 8 of them. There are 8 LLMs, large language models. There are 8 of them. So I can see them myself because we're opening up, some accounts for clients yesterday, and I was just watching every account. I'm like, wow, wow, wow. Okay, this is a share of voice. This is a sentiment value. This is a brand mention, or this is their LinkedIn. Okay, this is how AI found them. It's so clear. And now it really exposes who's really doing it, because right now we're literally playing at a 0-0 playing field level. Everybody has started from 0. Think about it this way. You know how what happened in the pandemic, it was just flatline. The same thing is happening now with AI. And if you're not using AI past ChatGPT, then you're far from the reality of what's happening right now. That's the truth, because what people are using AI for is amazing. People are building apps, people are building books, people are building systems. Great. You can use it as well for your business, but the way you're using it for your website should also be a factor to put in, because most times people would say, and thank you for that response, Melvin, you say you use it for research. If you're using it for research, that means you're getting research results from citations that ChatGPT is giving you. Now, if you do that same research with Grok, or you do that same research with Claude, or with Perplexity, or with, there are so many out there, or even Meta, if you get to those same questions, don't even change the format. The exact phrase, copy, paste, put it in this different platforms and see the results that you get. You will notice that there's some results that's going to show up third, second, first. There's some you'll never see because they're probably not even ranking for those mentions. Because when you think about AI right now, I feel like AI has turned into earned SEO. I don't know if someone has ever heard this before, but this is my first time even saying it. I feel like AI, I'll say it again, is earned SEO because it's earned impressions, meaning that if you've earned organic impressions organically through SEO, ChatGPT is looking for the top results that are showing up on Google. So if you're not showing up on Google in the first place, there's no way you can show up on AI. Impossible. So how does your website show up there is a question. Now you have to do the research and find out, okay, what are the top questions people are asking AI about this? Because someone's asking ChatGPT a question and somebody else is asking DeepSeek the same question, and they're both getting 2 different results. Now, if the same person is asking for 2 different, let's say they're comparing 2 different responses from 2 different sources, and they see the same source from 2 different platforms, they're going to go with the first platform that they see because they see it happening twice compared to the ones with once. So it definitely changes. Nate says you should do GPT, Claude, Perplexity, DeepSeek, Gemini, then take them, merge them into, put them in through Manus. Yeah, thank you for that. That's a great app too, for sure. Because these are platforms you have to really see and ask yourself, are we really showing up for these things? And if you're not, that's not a bad thing. It's actually an opportunity, because the ones who aren't right now that actually realize what they could do, it will change. And let me tell you the secret sauce for this. If you can do this and you do it well, you'll be happy you did it first. Go to etheo.co, etheo.co. Scan your website. I've talked to the developers, they're in India. Scan your website. Get the top high intent and high volume prompts about your website. Now, here's the kicker. If you've not done anything on your website before the day you upload that link, or submit that link to that AI platform, you're not going to see a much based result, because if you've not done SEO on your website, if you've never written a blog before, if you've never really optimized your pages, you might get a rough draft. So what you see is what you get because of what you did. It's kind of like saying you are what you eat. You get to be addressed the way you dress, so it's the same thing. And you're able to see how those things look out for. And now Lucas is saying to GEO, it's a new SEO. So there's a lot of things that I hear, and I'm happy we're talking about these things, because it's going to help us really look at them from different perspectives. And I even had an episode talking about the cost-effective LLM tools out there and what these tools are actually saying, because there's a lot of things that create more content for content reasons, but you're still able to understand what's going on behind those things. Because this platform I talked about, Nate, it's called Ethio, ETH, like think about like ether, but replace the R with the O. So Ethio, I'll actually put the link in the chat, ethio.co. And when you check this out, they have 3 LLMs in there. I think it's Gemini, Cloud, and Chat GPT. Yeah, there are 3 in there. So not every platform has all 8. So when you look at the high volume and the high intent, it's a free platform. It's not going to be free for long, because they said that might change. So I'm just telling you now. So if you hear this episode and you enter the site and you realize it's paid, I'm sorry. I said it early. Go get your website in there, scan it, let AI give you a response and feedback on what your website is talking about, because GEO is generative engine optimization, which Lucas said. There's AIO, there's SXO, there's AEO. That's answer engine optimization. There's a lot of EOs going on. All I think about, I just drop all those EOs and I talk about thought leadership and experience. It just makes it easier, it makes it safer, and it makes it louder, because it allows people to understand what they're really trying to get across in form of a conversation. Because when they say, hey, Alexa, there's going to be a response to the question that you ask. Last night, I was talking about what the top most question has, and I'll ask you guys again, because not everyone was there last night. So let's see who gets this right. If you don't, I'll still say it. What was the top most searched question last year on Google? Can anyone guess? Mo, John, or put in the chat. Let's see. I talked about this yesterday, and it's not even, it's what you, by the time I say the answer, you'd be like, okay, interesting. I talked about it yesterday and
All right.
people got the same result. Go ahead, Mo. What do you think?
What was the question again?
What?
The most
Yeah,
top
what
ranked
was the most,
search group?
question? What was the top most searched question on Google last year?
Shit. I don't know. Probably something having to do with the election.
Nope. I think we should make this a quiz and see. John, what about you?
I'm cheating. I'm using Google. What is my ID?
Nah. We're not. No, we're not gonna.
And what time is it?
There you go. You see, John, thank you for doing that, because some people will not do that too. And I love that John is very proactive. He'll tell you exactly what it is. See, Mo gave me a different response from John. What time is it? That's the most searched question. You could have asked ChatGPT that same question. And guess where that question is going to come from and where that answer is going to pull from? A website. And if that's not your website, it's somebody else's website. And if you're not the top most, about 3.2 million people were asked searched that question last year.
I'm shocked by that, because the damn device that they're asking that question on is going to tell them the time.
Yeah.
Go figure, Mo. That's the crazy part about it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's mind blowing, but at the same time, it's like, why not? Why? I mean, that's what. It's time. That's what people want to know. Hey Google, hey Alexa, hey Siri, what time is it? I don't want to walk all the way 3 miles, 0.5 miles, 2 feet to just get the same answer. I'll just ask Alexa across the room. So it's like, okay, there's a different pattern going on. There's a different consumer behavior going on. If they say, hey, what are the best shoes to get in this store? And give me the best options within a mile away or within 5 miles distance. Like, you're actually talking to these search engines and they're actually giving you responses. If these responses are giving you results, then that tells you that if you're not writing commercial blogs, then you're off the radar. That's it. Because if you think about what time is it, that's an informative question. It's not a commercial question. It's a general question. And Nate says also would be surprised that they would start a search and not just answer. Right? You see what I'm saying? Like it's the whole dichotomy of everything that's just like it's appealing, and at the same time it's like, is this appalling? Could we call it that? Because there's a lot of things happening that we have to answer and ask ourselves too, what are we really using the web for? And if we don't get these results, how are we able to make those results the results we want to see? Because right now, the playing field is so flat that you could show up for these mentions really quickly. I'll give you an example. Right now, my podcast, We Don't Play Podcast, is showing up within ChatGPT and other platforms for best podcasts about SEO and about Pinterest. So when you see Pinterest SEO best podcast, I'm one of those podcast listings. And when I did some research, I realized that out of the about 78 on that leaderboard chart, and I realized the distance between number 1 and number 20, because I'm in the top 20, I realized that the distance between the number 1, it's just so crazy. The distance between the number 1 spot and the 20th spot is about 8 mentions, because the top most has 9 mentions. It's not me. And I was like, okay, let me see how I can add that. And my own mentions had about 2, which made sense, because I was like, okay, let me see which 2 links, because this is all about SEO. Like, I'm literally doing a live case study with you, because when I come and talk about this in a month from now, I'll be like, here's the stats, here's the evidence, here's what I said, here's the justification, here's the summary, here's the facts, here's the frequently asked questions, here's the glossary. You have it all there. There's no reason for you to doubt the information, because it's been discussed, it's been proven, and we can see it. So when I'm looking at this result and saying, okay, now I have 2 mentions, number 1 has 9 mentions, and I have 2 podcast episodes, and those are not the only episodes talking about Pinterest SEO, but I'm still ranking for best podcast episodes about Pinterest. And that's how I got to know that this is actually working, because someone on LinkedIn followed me, connected with me all the way from Spain, and she lives in the UK, and she found me on Castbox. And she said, hey, I found you. I was looking for, she's actually helping a client that needed help with Pinterest, and she was looking on podcasts to find the best Pinterest podcast to help with her client in Spain. And she was going back to the UK. So she found my podcast and reached out on LinkedIn, because on me, anytime I have a podcast episode, I put my LinkedIn there. And that's how I have about 15,000 followers now on LinkedIn. So I'm looking at the curve as though I'm like, okay, business, professional, marketing, AI, project management, these things are happening. And I'm just here telling you the same things that I'm showing you. So there's no doubt like, oh, what are you talking about? You can see it. It's right there. So when I'm looking at the 2 mentions I'm having right now, thank you so much. When I'm looking at the mentions right now, when it comes to AI is earned impressions and Google is organic impressions, if I can really dissect the 2. So that if you're looking at GEO, it's generative engine optimization, and AEO is answer engine optimization. You think about the answer engines. What are the answer engines? Alexa, Siri, Google. You can start thinking about those things there. And if Alexa is going to contribute or give you a result, Alexa is going to come from the Amazon database. So if you don't have anything connected to Amazon or indirectly connected to Amazon, meaning that you don't have a podcast, you don't have a book, you don't have an episode, you don't have a product, you don't have a link that has any kind of imprint of Amazon indirectly to it, then it's going to be hard for you to be recommended by Alexa, because Alexa doesn't know you, because you're not showing up for any result search that's within the form of a bracket or in form of a uniform resource locator, which is a URL. So if your URL says Pinterest SEO like mine, and I have 2 mentions, and I know that for me to get to number 1, I need 7 more mentions, that means I need 7 more episodes. So that's the math. So if you want to, it's like, oh, how am I going to get to the top? By climbing higher than the person that you found at the top behind you. So you're looking above and you're like, okay, let me see how I can get to the top. But you have to get to the top by climbing up there. And that means you have to create trust. You have to create intention. And one of the things I even noticed too with Apple Podcasts, how you can also decide and also determine your web page index. I'll show you how you can do it with a web page for a blog and how you can do it for a podcast. I'll start with a podcast. If you go to Apple Podcasts and your podcast is there, try this out. I was telling this to a client yesterday, and it was really fascinating to see what we saw. Because I said, when you start talking within your script, you also have to match your script to the exact matches. Because even when you go to Google, when you go to Siri, when you go to Apple Podcasts, when you go to even Apple Music and you're singing a song, or you know the lyrics to the song, or you know the play, or you know the script, you can play the script and then you can get the result off the script to get the actual target that matches the exact match that you're looking for within that criteria. So what we did was we now opened up Apple Podcasts, and as soon as you open up the citation section, or you can say the show notes section, turn it into a full page. And at the bottom of your page, you're going to see on your Apple Podcasts, if you use your mobile phone, you're going to see a little magnifying glass. Hit that magnifying glass and type in the keyword that is your focus within that topic. And it's going to highlight the number of times you said that word. So if I said SEO 36 times, it's going to highlight the 36 times I said it within the show notes text. That's literally the transcript of the audio. So when you're speaking, like I'm speaking, you're going to see the word speaking, and you're going to read speaking because you know the word speaking is the translation of what the phonetic is. So when you start using English, when you start using communication, when you start using language, when you start using terms, search terms that are actually keyword search term friendly, that also have a high CPC, a high cost per click value, then you start realizing the more you speak, the more value you get. That's why when you speak with words that have high intent, high search volume, then that's how all these search engines can find you, because you have a resource. And that resource is identified just because from the beginning, your website, your web page, and your web link has been connected to Google Search Console, which means you have intellectual property within the Google Internet Service Provider, which allows those servers to talk to each other, like Googlebot or Bingbot or Pixie, which is Pinterest's algorithm name. And that's how you're able to discuss and know exactly what these platforms are doing. So that's how you're able to really go through them as well. Lucas says it's no longer about being first in search results. It's never been more important to have a website, because it's about having as much or as many search results as possible. It's about structure and about link power. Yes, definitely. When you think about domain authority and page authority, those are two different things. Yes. And each of them have to stand on their own so that people can also find you. Because people say, what's more important, backlinks or content? Backlinks or content? Backlinks or content? I'm like, hey, at the end of the day, if I'm mentioned once and that allows me to move the needle 3 times further than I could have if I didn't do it once, then if I now decide to do it more than once, then how do I compound that power and that interest to give me the result I'm looking for, or even have a forecast and allow me to expand my reach? That just depends on how well you want to do it. And you're right, Lucas, it's not about ranking first anymore. You can be first all day, but is that first going to get you first place or first dibs or first checkout or first sale? Most times that doesn't happen, because people are not really thinking about the translation of that. If you really have a business and you have organic impressions, paid impressions, or earned impressions, and those impressions are not turning into leads or contacts, then that's a missed opportunity too, because you also want to make sure that you're connecting with the right people at the right time. And if you don't follow up, that's on you. So it definitely has to play a big role in how do you think about ranking. If you have a new website and you've never ranked before on the surface of the web, you have a new website, how long does it take to rank your SEO page or your web pages? I didn't say website for a reason, because website is site-wide. It could be anything on your website. You could have 5 pages, you could have 500 pages, you could have 5,000 pages, but not every page is going to be indexed on your site or indexed through Google or indexed through Bing. So that's why I said web pages, because I want to make it very specific. So how long does it take to rank SEO web pages on Google and AI if you are a new website holder, or if you just launched a new website today or yesterday or the other day? It's going to take you at least 3 to 6 months, at least 2 quarters out of 4 quarters in a year. You can even be faster than that depending on your speed. But if you really are articulate, if you're meticulous, if you're really keyword based, if you're really rich term based, and if you're key phrased in a position where you can answer questions that are within the traditional and the AI search results engines, then your website is going to be a moving force that allows you to also connect with more people over time. That's within that 3 to 6 month period, because you have to now do your search. You can do blog slash check and see who's out there. You can use the tool section under Google and see the last 24 hours, the past month, the past 90 days, the past year, and check and see where you show up. If you do show up, if you don't show up, then that means that the Google search operator cannot find you. You're not found. It's like going to a library looking for a book that was not there. You're not available. You're not on the market. You're not even on the radar. So if you want to be within those scopes, or within those, I can say, periscopes, you want to create your own understanding of being in a position where someone can tap, click, find, search, and connect with you. And that connection now turns into a page session, into a page depth, into a scroll depth. People can now find you above the fold. You're able to really articulate what you're saying. Even with my podcast, I always make sure my LinkedIn is at the top before they start reading, because I want them to know who they're talking to, who they're listening to. That way they're able to decide, do I want to stay or do I want to go? Because the choice is yours. I can't force anyone to do anything. My goal is to understand, help, give, and achieve tasks that allow you to also see things in a different perspective. So it's really exciting to see that we're talking about this today. Nate says as well, that actually really changes things. Thank you for that thought, Lucas. Yes, Lucas really brought that into place. Thank you so much for that, Lucas, too. Do crawlers go through databases on sites? Great question. Crawlers go through databases on sites. Now, there's something called tokenization. I talked about it a little bit earlier, but I really dwelt into it yesterday. There's something called tokenization. And right now, when you look at AI search mentions or brand mentions, if you want to rank on these SEO web pages on Google or AI, especially if you have old articles, this is the best time to try it out, because by this time, 2 years ago, last year, you had an article you wrote about something that made sense to you at that time. Now we're in the same season, but we're in a new year. So you can bring a new perspective and rewrite or modify that article and then resubmit the article to Google, because there's something called a sitemap, right? Your sitemap is what you're submitting to Google. It's like trying to submit an application for a job or submit an application for a reservation. When you submit that, it's what you put there. If you have a typo and that's the first submission, you have to resend it because you had a typo. So if you use that same analogy and you know that your sitemap was coming from Rank Math and now it's coming from Yoast, or it wasn't even available at all and now it's coming from Jetpack, or now it's just showing up as a XML file but within a sitemap indexed sitemap file, then you're like, okay, this is my sitemap index XML file. I'll submit that sitemap to Google, to Bing, to Yandex, to Ecosia, wherever you want to send it to Yandex. And then when you're now creating that sitemap, that's what they're reading. So if you go back and say, oh, here's a new sitemap, you're now resubmitting that sitemap. That's a good thing, but you don't have to do it all the time, because what's happening is there's something called last mod. So last mod means last modified. Like if you go to your browser or your phone right now and you change something on your computer and you change it from the last time you changed it was July 1st and now it's, today is August 6th. And now you last modified it then and you do it now, it's going to change. If you go to your notes app in your Apple device and you change your notes, if you go to a notes you did September 15th, you go there and you click today, it's going to switch from September 15th at the time you did it to now. That's a sitemap last mod. I'm giving you a very simple analogy. So if you don't update your blog and have a last mod, then the tokenization of the imprint or the duplicate copy of what you've submitted to Google is the last thing Google remembers. Google is not going to come to you. Yes, they have a crawl budget, but they're not going to come to your website and say, hey, do you have this? If you don't have automatic indexing, then you have manual indexing. It's either binary, it's either 1 or 0. So if you don't have that in place, then how are you going to make sure that your sitemap is always corresponding to the last modification? Because every time you hit publish on your website, whether you're on Squarespace, WordPress, Wix, Duda, Tilda, wherever you are, when you click that button and you hit publish, it's going to resurface. The same thing happens with a podcast. That's why when I was saying earlier, when you use the search magnifying glass on a podcast, you can find the number of words that you said by speech. If you do the same thing for your blog, of course, you can hit F9, or whichever, or if it's F5, whichever, if you have Mac or Windows, you can see where your bars are, and you can look at your keyboard and say, okay, I want to hit the search bar. I want to find everything within this web page. I want to inspect the element and see, okay, how many times was this word said? So if you're highlighting those words and you're finding them within a hypertext markup language format, which is in form of a web page, which we're talking about today, then if you want to really rank, then that's where you can start to think about the longevity of your business over time. So if you're a new business, give yourself 1 to 2 quarters in the year that you start, and give yourself time to grow, but also intentionally create pages that's going to help you incrementally grow, because by this time next year, 2 years from now, the same things you talked about would be last mod then, and you have to last mod them now. So think about that. Don't just forget that, oh, it's an article today. Next year is coming. Time is moving. Time doesn't wait for nobody. So next year, same time, same place, you're going to have the same result. If you don't change it, it's never going to change. That's why you have to keep updating. That's why SEO is not a one-time fix. You don't shower one time a year. You don't brush your teeth once a year. SEO is consistent. AI is consistent. These things are consistent. So we have to think about consistency in our planning and our strategy. So we're not just thinking about placing content and just leaving it on a wall. Because one of those days where you want to rank on number one for no reason. So you have to think about that too. So building that is going to help you really understand that layout, which is going to give you a much better experience. Hope that answered your question, Nate, as well. The more you speak, the more value you get. I tell clients all the time their voice is an invoice. Could you talk about that voice as an invoice part? Because the word voice is already in there.
I'm sorry, brother. I was sending the message. Were you talking to me?
Yeah, wanted to ask you about invoice. You talked about your voice is your invoice. How can people apply that?
Right. So when I say voice, it's not necessarily just speaking what's coming out of your mouth, right? It's the content that you put out, right? Your social media content, your website content, your emails or whatever, right? So when you're using your voice, you're speaking up, and that's how you get paid, right? I can tell you right now, like for example, here on Clubhouse, right? The people that get on stage get paid, right? Whether you're presenting the information or you're coming up on stage to ask questions to help get you over the hump. If you get on stage, you get paid. Um, if you put your questions in the chat for us to answer, you're gonna get paid, right? So those that speak up, closed mouths don't get fed, right? That's just the bottom line to it. So if you use your voice in that particular fashion, in presenting that value, you're going to get recognized and you're going to get rewarded for that. So it's very easy to put it together that your voice is an invoice, and that's what you want to use.
That's huge. I love that you said that. Speaking of voice and invoice, there's a huge company. I won't even say the name because I signed an NDA too. And we talked about something, a massive discussion. And what it got me thinking, like you said, your voice is your invoice, is because I was like, how did y'all even find me? Of course, podcasts. I mean, when I asked that and they said, I was like, okay, that's fine. When you apply for something, you get something out, they check you out. It's not guaranteed. Everybody that applies for a job doesn't get the job. Everyone that applies for something, a position, doesn't get a position, whether it's a theater position, a movie position, whatever position, you may get it or you may not. But when you do, you'll be like, okay, why me? Then you ask yourself, okay, what am I doing that's making me even the thought or the top in mind? And I'm like, this is an honor. It's a blessing. It's actually humbling, and it's also very, what's the word? I have a responsibility. Let me just say it like that, because I want to make sure that people are getting the right information. If it's not factual, it's not true, because I don't want you to think, oh, is SEO dead? It's not going anywhere. In fact, AI is exposing SEO today. If you're not doing SEO correctly, then AI is going to expose that. Whether you did it on a website, within an email, it's going to change a lot. So you have to really think about what you're doing today, and that will give you a lot of insight too. Sort of, Nate says, I was leaning towards having a vector database instead of hosting one elsewhere. but putting it inside link to a chatbot on the website. That could work too, because if you have a chatbot on the site and you're able to track the activity on the web page, then that could really give you some insights and analytics to get you a much bigger result. So yeah, definitely it will serve as a bigger list, because you also want to see what's working, and whether it's through an iframe or through an embed or through an inline, it allows you to see like where best it could show up, even as a pop-up, based on how you want to interact with your audience. So yeah, that was a great insight, Nate. Appreciate you for that. Yeah, so this has been a really good topic. I told you I have about 52 topics in total. This is just the second one out of the 52. The third one I'm going to talk about is, why are my SEO efforts not working? We're going to dive into that one. So if you listen to this, please take heed, take action, take time, and don't rush. Just know exactly what you're looking for. Answer those questions. If you answer one question at a time, you'll be further ahead than trying to answer all the questions at the same time. I hope that helps. John, you wanted to say something before we go? Go ahead.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is this: favorite great room. So again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. If you're not doing it, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. If you're not doing SEO tools now, the AI and standard SEO to some degree or another, nothing's going to change 6 months from now. You'll be in the same boat you're in now. So if you're ultra successful, great, but that you'll start getting declining efforts if you don't do this. If you're not ultra successful, there's a reason why. So the last thing I'll close on is use all your tools and available to you. And Favor has Clubhouse Plus. I have Clubhouse Plus. This is Favor's room. I can't pin links. However, I can tell you to check out my bio. And I will see who checked out my bio, and I'll reach out to you. If that is a potential lead, a potential consumer, you're missing out on an opportunity to connect with a potential consumer, someone that could change your world. Number two, I'll tell people, check out my links at the bottom of my bio. Number one is going to be my website. Number two is going to be my Facebook page. I make the most money off my Facebook page. You want to know how? Follow it. It's as simple as that. Maybe some of what I do can apply to you, and you can figure out how to do it. But use everything available to you, including SEO. Thanks, Favor.
Thank you so much, John. Appreciate that. That was amazing. Yeah, you have to use all your tools. And the ones that work well, use them better so that you can get better at the tools that you use. It's mindset, skill set, and tool set. If you can't achieve those three, then it starts with your mind first. So, and that deals with you, not even me. But at the same time, if you're able to achieve that for yourself, then it's going to help you get better. So it's a team effort. It's not a one-way street. So thank you so much for that, John. What about you, Mo?
Yeah. I'm just gonna amplify on what John said a little bit, right? To get the things you've never had, you have to do things you've never done. Right? There's just no two ways about it. You're not gonna be able to pray your way to profits. You're not going to. As a matter of fact, you don't even need 10,000 followers to make $10,000. Right? You just have to be more clear in your message, more strategic in who you attract, and use your content. Right? Use your content for two purposes. Number one, everybody knows to attract the people that they want, but the second part of content is to repel the people that you don't want. Right? And that's the thing that people often overlook, because those people that you don't want are the ones that are going to waste your time, right? The ones that can't afford your service, the ones that don't really need your service, but they just kind of sort of liked you a little bit, so they kind of follow you and blah blah blah, right? So you just want to be crystal clear, pick a team, right? When I was in the Army, one of the first things they taught us was never be in the middle, because that's the best way to get shot by bullets coming in both directions, right? So pick one side, one or the other. It's not polarizing, it's not monetizing, right? So you build a much more loyal fan base by doing that, and then you can galvanize the people who aren't with you or aren't going to spend any money with you anyway to move along in another direction and find somebody that's in their tribe. So with that, I'll go ahead and close the mic. Thanks for allowing me on stage, Favor. My brother. Appreciate it. And everybody have a great day.
Appreciate you, Mo. Great conversation, y'all. I'm glad that y'all were here to listen, to learn, to grow, and I hope you learned something new. If you learned something new, put a 1 in the chat. Let me know, because feedback is the best currency for any conversation, because if you didn't understand what was said, then the accomplished goal was not really accomplished. But if it was accomplished, then there'll be a response. And sometimes it may just take one. You see, and they put a 1 in the chat. It just takes one. Sometimes you don't need 5, 10, 15. You just need to understand, okay, people are busy. People have lives. People got things to do. So you can't just assume, kumbaya every day. You have to really think about how you connect with people. That's why I always say, start off by building a community first, then ask the community what they want, and then that's where you build the product from. You don't start a product and look for the community, because it will look like you're trying to sell eggs to chickens. I'm just saying. So hope this helped you. Thank you so much, Soma. Thank you, Anna, for being here as well. And Bold in Mind, thank you for being here. Michelle, appreciate you for being here today in this space. Thank you, Lucas, for the great analysis and the great insight you gave us. Mimi, thank you for being here too. Amanda, Pete, Lorna, Serena, Karim, Bassem, Rahul, and Nate. Thank you as well, Nate, for joining us. Thank you so much for the one in the chat too. And Nate, join us. We have the marketing club here. We have over 352,000 members. So feel free to join us. We have rooms here and replays you can listen to and enjoy the conversation. So until we meet again, God willing, have a great day. Enjoy yourself, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Now, that was an episode, right? Thank you so much for listening to the We Don't Play podcast show. I'm so glad that you're here and you are sticking tight with us, especially to the very end. Now, this is season 11 and we're going to do it differently. And I want to make sure that every episode you listen to has something to give back so that you can also learn more after you listen. Now, We Don't Play podcast show is where you listen, you live, you learn, and you earn. So if you're in any of those positions out of those 4, please make sure that you reach out to me. Send out an email through info@playinc.online. That's info@playinc.online. Or you could go to playinc.online, which is a website, www.playinc.online, playinc.online, and schedule a call so that we can get you on an SEO discovery call to talk about your business and help you with your marketing needs. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope this helped you. See you in the next episode. God bless you. Jesus loves you.